Welcome to the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. We're going to explore ways to sharpen our diagnostic skills, find learning resources, and hear from experts in the automotive field. Hey, what's going on, automotive world? Welcome to another episode of the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. My name is Sean Tipping, and I will be your host once again for today's episode. Joining me on the show this week is Pedro De La Torre. Pedro is a diagnostic and programming technician. He's been on this show before. I'm sure you've heard me reference the EEPROM class that he instructed around the country. We're going to talk a little bit about that, talk a little bit about mobile diagnostics and programming, but the main reason I'm having him on the show today is so that he can talk about the upcoming webinar that he has. Pedro has discovered a way to repair ECMs in Subaru vehicles that have a specific cam timing issue. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you'll remember an episode a while back where I ran into one of these. Timing was out on the vehicle. They fixed it. Code remained. What do we do? Pedro's got a fix for this now, and that's what the webinar is going to be all about. So you can hear all the details here, but for anybody that's interested, it's going to be Thursday, October 27th from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. And there's going to be a link in the show notes here where you can sign up for this webinar. So I'd encourage you to do that. Pedro's a super smart guy. The stuff is really interesting, and it can provide you with a service to your customers that they're probably not going to find anywhere else, especially the dealers. Dealers are going to tell them to put an ECM in it. So really, really cool stuff. Encourage you to check that out. I'm going to be there. But other than that, let's jump into the episode. It seems to be that's always when really good conversation happens is, before or after, which is totally fine. A part of this podcast I enjoy so much is just getting to talk to people, whether it's recorded or not. But I like to share as much of it as possible with the listeners. So,
no, I totally get that.
Well, how's it going, Pedro? How's life? How's business? What's happening?
Things are going well. Thanks. It's crazy though. It's how we had mentioned earlier. Work is just crazy. It's almost like I always say this joke. It's almost like we're giving the work away for free. There's a lot of abundance of work, and I would like to say that some of it is hopefully the work that I put out. But man, it almost sometimes feels like there's a lot of shops that have some catching up to do with some training. That they do some amazing work with the things that they focus on, but I get so many calls for anything electrical, anything that uses electricity, and then they just back away. You made a comment about them getting comfortable and, from the convenience from having mobile techs, but I had recently made a big move where I hired David, my employee. He's, mobile programming only. Okay. And all my diagnostics, I took it into a location that I rent. I'm in the back of an industrial road, nothing pretty about it. It was my first place I could get into. And I had a big fear that a lot of customers would avoid bringing vehicles to me because they got used to the convenience, right? You come out to their shop, you diagnose it, then their techs just do the work, and, life is good. So I was a little concerned, but I had felt that it was time for me to get into the next level because I felt I could accomplish more being in my own area. And fortunately, I don't think anything changed as far as my customer base. They tow the cars over, they drive them. Awesome. Sometimes I get some help to pick up the cars, drop them off. So it's all over the place.
That's fantastic to hear. And I'm sure going back to what you said, I know it's to do with the quality of work that you're offering to the customers that they're willing to do that. But there's so much work out there right now to be had in this industry. It's absolutely crazy. And, I'm thinking ahead already it's supposed to get below freezing tomorrow night. And around here, at least, I'm sure it's the same where you're at. As soon as the snow flies, it just ramps up even more.
Yeah.
Like those first few weeks in shops after it starts snowing, it's just nuts until Christmas. And
Oh yeah. No, and I can't believe you guys are gonna get below freezing. That's interesting.
yeah.
I'm gonna check my weather app. I wonder if we're gonna have that because it's been about 45-ish, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're not there. You know what? It's gonna work its way to us. Not there, but on Saturday it'll be a low of 37, so we're almost there.
Yeah, it
Wow.
dropped today. It's been beautiful the whole month of September and up until yesterday. And then today it was chilly, but I actually don't mind it. I'm still doing the mobile thing, and I'll be out in the parking lot quite often, which honestly is fine with me. I like to just kind of be on my own. But it was a nice change of pace. I wore a sweatshirt all day today. I wasn't sweating in the sun or anything like that. So
Nice,
I didn't
nice.
mind the 50 degrees out today. Um, yeah, I got to imagine it's nice to be in your own area to have a bay. Do you have lifts and stuff like that in there?
Just one. I actually I can't think of the name. I think it's called Max Jacks, and it's only about 4 feet. Or I know there's a name, maybe mid-rise, I think they call it. Yeah, like a mid-rise lift. And I almost did that kind of on purpose. One, it was budget-wise, but two, anytime there's a big job, I kind of let the shop know, hey, listen, our focus is diagnostics and
Sure.
electrical work. So anything that involves a lift all the way up in the air has to go back to your place, and we'll figure something out.
Yep.
I just had a neighbor that he had asked me to help him with this wife's Durango 2018. So I'm like thinking, oh, it's a no crank, no, a crank, no start.
Hmm.
And he works on trucks. A lot of my neighbors do a lot of semi trucks. So I'm thinking he's gonna go through the basics, and he shows up with it, and it's a bad fuel pump. And he's like, oh, okay, well, can you fix it now? I'm like, oh, I told you it's the fuel pump. I thought you would take care of this job. I'm like, yeah, I don't have the lift to accommodate that. And
Yep.
just, yeah, I did what I could for him. So yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of gets me out of trouble.
Oh, I completely agree. I did the side work thing for many years, and I still have a few people that reach out for, hey, do you want to do this brake job or whatever? And I left the college in May, and so now technically I don't have access to a lift, right? I got my two stall garage at my house, and I don't have a lift, so it's a really easy out on a lot
Yep,
of this
yep.
stuff when people call me like, oh man, I really need this transmission in my car. I'm like, I can recommend a shop to you. And I am so okay with that. I don't know. I got to a point where besides every once in a while, obviously I'll keep up my own stuff. Like I just have very little desire to do the actual repair
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. I think it's once you have, and it's not even like to look down at the work at all. That's not what it is.
No,
I think
no.
it's the quick high you get from constantly troubleshooting something and getting to the solution. That's my thing. If it's something that I'm not in a rush, I have nothing to do, and I have to do maintenance on my car, I'll swap out whatever I have to, and I enjoy the work, and it's beautiful. But it's when you have, let's say, 100 cars to diagnose and 3 cars to do heavy mechanical, the logical approach is you go towards your strength.
Hmm.
So that's how I always visualize that. It's definitely not knocking on any type of specialty that we focus on. It's just we all have our strengths in different things.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was the same thing for me when I was a repair technician at Firestone. Is I got those little bits of satisfaction throughout the day of completing a job, getting something working that wasn't working, finishing, a big ticket or whatever. And those were like little bits of that. But now, like you say, the diagnostic side of things, it's it's definitely a more rewarding feeling. And yeah, you can just go from one to another, and I don't know, it keeps my brain moving more than the repair work, because it kind of got monotonous after a while, right?
Yeah.
Like I've done 100 sets of ball joints and brakes and tires, and like I can kind of even just turn my brain off when I'm doing them. Not 100%, right? I need to be safe, but like you do so many,
Yeah.
it's just the same thing, and I can't do that with diagnostics. I don't know. It's going to be something new each time. It's going to like really require my focus and my energy in order to get through that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, it's funny you say that because I always almost feel at times I can't turn it off. You know, it's getting late in the day and it's time to wrap it up, and it's just that hunger keeps going like, oh, I could do one more. What if I look at this one? It might be this pattern failure, which whenever you think it is, it'll never be that.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, that'll be that's a rude awakening every time.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've had those calls where I'm like, I already know what this is. Like, I've seen this
Oh,
before. Nope.
man, I am guilty. Anytime I diagnose the car on the phone, I get screwed
Yep.
without fail.
Uh-huh.
Rarely does it happen, and that'll be a victorious day, but not that often.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm actually right now in talks with a guy. I'm trying to get a second van going. Just because the work is there, my particular area where I'm at, there's not a whole lot of other options, to offer the programming and keys and stuff like that I do mobile. So I'm looking to get an employee, and I think I've got a guy, right? I'm in talks. We're sorting through it, trying to work stuff out. Do you have any advice for somebody who's looking to
Oh
hire
man.
somebody for the first time?
Um, Man, I don't know if I'm gonna be the right guy for that. That's never been one of my strengths. I can tell you that I hired close to home. It's a relative
Okay.
that he came out of the IT field, and I was talking to him one day, and he was telling me some of his goals and the things he enjoys, and I'm like, well, how would you like to try this out with cars? A lot of things are similar, especially anytime these softwares are not working. You have to be your own IT guy and try to figure out different things in your computer, and the conversation kind of evolved, and we were able to reach an agreement, and I went through some basic training with him, and he's a great employee, eager, and he learns every day. Um, yeah, I mean, as far as tips, I don't know. It's tough. I think there's so many things to consider, and one of the biggest things that you have to consider is what role is he going to play realistically.
Hmm.
So for me, when I got David on, my main goal was to have him focus on our key side and updates. As it evolves, and if he's interested, if he's not, I'm totally cool with it. But if he's interested, we can try to troubleshoot a couple things little by little, get into some habits. Um, I'm always, I don't know if I'm a control freak, but I have always such a concern about the outcome of a job. And if I'm not there to put my stamp of approval, I get very uncomfortable.
Sure.
So I haven't evolved into that yet as my comfort zone. Um, so when I got him on board and we understood, tooling him up with programming tools and have him understand how to go through some different things that you can experience, and even like a transmission setup or a Ford airbag module. You have to go into your ABS systems on some to learn the accelerometer sensor instead of the airbag. So those are things that take a long time for them to pick up on the patterns. If your guy is coming from automotive, I think it might be easier
Hmm.
for him to connect the dots. Does he already do programming?
So he doesn't do programming, but he's a tech. I actually went to tech school with him, so I know him and I'm friends with him, and a really really solid, nice guy. That was one of the things I was looking for. Is you know part of my business is being friendly and working with the shops, right? To a point, I don't want to get taken advantage of, but I have a very friendly demeanor when I go into these shops, and I think that's helped with my success so far. And so I wanted somebody that would be like that too, right? That could represent the business well. But super super nice guy. He hasn't done a lot of programming. I took him on a ride along the other day just to kind of show him like, hey, is this something that you'd be interested in? And he definitely seemed like he would be. He was actually looking to get out of wrenching, like out of the field, because he's the same age as me, coming up on 40, and he's been doing it his whole career, and he just
Yeah.
kind of wants to find something else. I was like, hey man, this would be a great transition. Going back to what you said, because he's got the auto background, right? And
Yeah.
I would find it very difficult, even just programming and keys, to do it without knowing the car side of it
Oh yeah.
intimately. That helps every single day. I refer back to something I learned as a technician to help me out,
Oh no, definitely, and I really admire the way you look at the how you handle your relationship with the shops, because that's my thing too. I mean, every single shop to a certain extent, I have a very like close relationship as far as anything they need. I'm always looking to just, at the end of the day, I want them to be happy and the car to be fixed.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing I have with David. He's really, really nice and very, very polite and very patient. So that goes a really long way, because I think I've had personally experienced and had experiences with when I was starting out, when a mobile guy would come out. Sometimes, maybe, you're rushed, you have a lot of stuff on your plate. They usually didn't have too much time to watch their bedside manners with certain things, and I was like, oh man, it was almost intimidating. I was like,
Yep.
man, I don't want to get in his way, I don't want to upset him. I just want to get the job done, and I never want to leave that impression. I want them to be comfortable because we're working together. And that's something that I'm fortunate enough to have with him, that like everybody loves him, and they love to deal with him, because if anything comes up, anything we need to talk about, they just reach out to me. He calls me, we figure it out, and we move on. And I never
Sure.
want them to feel like we're losing that connection. As companies grow, that happens. It's inevitable. And
Yeah.
I think maybe that's happened to a certain extent, right? They don't see me anymore. They might talk to me on the phone, but anything for programming and stuff, I haven't been to some shops, since January. But I'm fortunate, they still call me often and we talk on the phone. And I always just want to make sure that things are okay. So you have the right idea with that. That's super important. As long as they take care of your people, that's going to be good.
Yeah, it's that's the part. Anything that you want to scale when you start off and your business is just you, that's the toughest part. Is you're going to have to separate yourself from the day to day. But how do you maintain, that relationship you have? One of the best marketing tools that I've had, and I really haven't done any marketing, is technicians going to other shops or knowing people at other shops. I get so many calls from new places that I haven't been to before, like, oh, hey, we got your number from so and so is now working here and he said you do this and that. And that's been like so many new shops have been that way. And it's just it's not like sucking up to them or anything. Honestly, it's just not being an asshole.
Yeah,
when I go
exactly.
to
No,
the
you're right.
shops.
Being patient and like
Yeah.
the
If they
thing
got a
is that,
question, I'll answer the question.
yeah, and my biggest thing from day one, honestly, was I don't care if it's a popped fuse, a dead battery, a loose terminal. I have never ever taken the approach to make them feel smaller than me, just because I figured it
No.
out, and I think that has paid itself tenfold back towards me. And like you said, yeah, a technician leaves somewhere or anything. I mean, they like follow you. They just keep
Yeah.
passing it along, and that's what it is. Because the moment you intimidate somebody just to make yourself feel better, they're probably never likely to share your information. It's going to
Right.
be sure, you could feel like you're the man at that moment, but where does that get you? So that
Exactly.
doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah. Um, this is just something I was thinking about. So I don't know if you do any ADAS stuff. I know you do keys and programming diagnostics. I haven't dove into the ADAS side of things myself. I was just thinking of like there's different sectors of what we do, right, as mobile
Yeah.
techs. Do you see any of those as being like a really big growth area in the next 5 to 10 years? I'm just trying where I'm going with this is I'm like trying to focus like where should I invest my time and energy in for the next 5 years to be ready for that pop.
No, and that's definitely has to be an important part of your business plan. I can tell you that I never focused on ADAS. It's a great focus, and I mean, you see so many successful companies. They're doing great financially, and they can do a lot, and they can support a lot of new cars. It's something that never attracted me. For some reason, I can't really even put it into words. I recently actually am working on having a third person get on board with me right now that will be focusing just on ADAS. But I
Okay.
think from talking to a few people, I'm trying to figure out the right wording for this, but like the peak of it we're at the peak now, or it's about to pass us for ADAS. There's a lot of companies that are doing it, right? You have all these major used parts resellers buying into companies. A lot of glass companies are getting their people equipped. And the aftermarket, there's a lot of tools available now. Before,
Sure.
you had to know all these specific part numbers, wait for it to come in, things like that. Some aftermarket things were shunned, oh my God, you can't say that name for that part. People are
Yeah.
going to die if you calibrate a car with this. So there was a lot behind that. And as that's fading away, it's becoming easier for people to do it and be more open. And I think as I get this third gentleman on with me, I think we're going to do okay. I don't
Hmm.
think that it's going to be overwhelming as much as the programming and diagnostics that I'm offering right now. He's a super, super amazing tech. He owned the shop for many years, and he's changing some things around, and he's going to be getting on board with me. I don't think he'll be here for a long time, but we're going to try to grow the ADAS market in my area
Okay.
and then hopefully train somebody when he's ready to move on. So it's going to be kind of cool because he's got the ownership experience, a great diagnostic technician. I mean, he's really well
Nice.
rounded. So it's going to be really nice, and we'll see where that takes us. So to answer your question, uh, I mean, ADAS, it's always going to be good money. I mean, that's just a
Yeah.
reality. It's especially if you focus on insurance jobs and stuff like that with the body shops. There's routines that they've been seeing it for years. They know the drill. So when you walk in there, it's nothing new. You go in there, you do your job, and you leave. And it's kind of like programming. I don't do a lot of it, but I can imagine it's easy till it's not. You have
Sure.
your
Yeah.
measurements, you have your tooling, but as soon as something's not right, then things get really hard, and that's when you need experience, and then you have to know what you're doing. But I think that it's a great area to focus on, especially like you said that if you're going to consider adding on, and he got tired of wrenching, he can focus on your programming in ADAS.
Yeah.
Get him out to some training and get some equipment, and that then you're faced with do I go all OE? Do I get some aftermarket, some OE? And if you do the math, I think at the grand scheme of things, usually getting a lot of OE stuff turns out to be less expensive than getting some huge package from an aftermarket company.
Yeah. I have seen the same thing in the limited amount of searching that I've done is that you can buy your OE targets for your most popular brands that you see, and it's going to be significantly less than the
The
20 or
big
thirty
box.
thousand dollar whatever the
Yeah, we'll call
giant
it the
kit
box
is.
package. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, I haven't really dove too much into that, but I keep getting a few calls now. I'm in with a few body shops now, and so that's part of what they're asking for. So I'm looking
I
into
see.
it, but it's just like anything else, which I'm sure all about, is like you only have so much energy and so much focus, and deciding where to dedicate your different chunks to it because you only got so much. And
Oh
that's a
yeah.
constant struggle for me. And that's why I ended up leaving teaching this spring, is like I couldn't do two careers anymore. And, I chose the self-employment, which that's the one that obviously is going to take up more time. But I'm now trying to say, okay, where should my focus go for the future? It's going to be best for me. And then obviously for the business too. And it's a constant update. It's constant, thing I'm wrestling with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it gets easier, but I don't think I could tell you that. But I can say that if that's one of the biggest things for me. From us having conversations in the past, I think you have a good idea on the things I like to focus on. As far as modules, diagnostics, programming at the board level, things like that. I don't think I have the time or the mental capacity to, let's say, master ADAS, if I could even say that.
Right.
So being able to get somebody on board that's almost going to have like as far as the handling the jobs, almost like a partnership role where, hey, this is going to be your area to focus on, and then you're going to grow that part for me. I'm okay with that. Because
Mm-hmm.
what I'm not going to do is, and we had a conversation about this, was I can't stop taking care of my current customers and servicing how I do. So I can say, hey, I'm only going to do ADAS now. That would be a huge shift for me, and I don't think that's the area that I want to go in. So if he's willing to grow that part for me, and I can stay focused on what I do, if something like he moves on or whatever it is, I'll be okay. And it's something that we tried and we provided the service for some people. But yeah, you don't have enough time in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are definitely not enough hours. If only I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
have to sleep, I'd be
yeah,
all
exactly right.
But that's the
Sleep or
thing though
eat.
too, is, this whole self-employment thing just seems to fill the time that you give it, so if you
Yeah.
got more time, you fill it with more stuff. But yeah, it's I guess it's good to have, all this work and all these opportunities or possibilities to go with. I should definitely not be complaining at all. I feel pretty blessed to have the opportunity that I have right now. And I love doing it too, right? Like it's all like, I'm just like, yeah, this is so awesome.
No, it's refreshing to be able to have this conversation because a few people that I'll talk to that I'm more acquainted with that are shop owners, I'll try to like vent about what our conversation right now, like, yeah, it gets to be a little frustrating and they're like, oh, well, any business is good business. And it's like, it is, but you can still have a certain perspective of it, and sometimes it sucks. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's things aren't going well. It gets overwhelming. You take on more than you wanted, and yeah, so it's complaining, but it's not. Sometimes you just want to put into perspective what's happening because then you can reflect on your decisions and try to improve.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you've got this EEPROM thing going on. That's one area you've focused quite a bit on. The first class that I went to with you and Mike was down in Vegas. I think it was the February of 21, I believe it was. That was my first. I hadn't experienced anything on the board level prior to that, besides seeing one that I cracked the case on or something. I didn't know anything that was on there. That was such a cool thing to get into, and I've explored it quite a bit more since. But it was just a whole nother world. What you guys were doing there was it was that was the best. I really, really enjoyed that. Just to take like a module that's broken, that doesn't communicate, right? Like the footwell modules was the one that prior to that, like a module doesn't communicate, like throw it away. Let's get a new one. That's it. That's your option, right? And no, we can fix some of these, not everything, but a lot of them you can fix, and you can do all kinds of, new things, and people can get creative, right? Like some of the really smart people that are doing this stuff, they're creating solutions for stuff that no one else has a solution for. But that was such a cool thing to dive into with your guys' class. And I hosted Mike up here earlier in the summer, and that was really cool up here too.
Nice. No, yeah, I appreciate that. I think, if I remember correctly, right after we got back from Vegas, had the opportunity to get on your podcast, and that was amazing. We got to talk about what we did and how everything started. And it's one of those things where like the learning really never stops. I enjoy so much of it all, but also sharing the stories with you on here as well, because I'm hoping to reach out to like young techs. Our industry is really hurting. So just the possibility of a tech that's struggling out there, or someone young that's really fascinated by electronics, and they get to hear stories of cool things happening at the board level, programming things, maybe like you said, finding solutions to things that the industry really needs, and you apply yourself and you get there and you get to experiment with cool stuff. It could attract some new talent into our field because we really, really need it. I think as time goes by, it's getting worse, especially with module shortages, things like that. It's needed more and more. You need to have backup plans. Software breaking that from the manufacturers, they don't work. So when you can reach out to people and just let them know that there's a whole other world of doing things, it's super great. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very interesting part if you're into that sort of stuff. And I mean, honestly, I don't know that I even knew that it was an interest for me until I got into it. I'm like, oh, this stuff is so cool. But I guess it does relate to just being a technician and gravitating towards that sort of stuff. You want to know how stuff works and you like fixing things. But I never really considered a circuit board or inside of a control module as an area that I'd be diving into. And yeah, like you say, exactly what I'm doing is my career right now. I would have never guessed that when I was starting out in tech school, that I'd be driving around and programming control modules.
Exactly.
And, there's no way. It's weird how life has a way of just dragging you to a point, and you have no idea how you got there. But I sure do like it. The EEPROM stuff is really cool, and it's definitely offered me some abilities to give solutions to shops that they don't have elsewhere, and that dealerships even some other mobile companies or what they can do. I mean, the footwell module is a great example, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure BMW is not going to fix that. They're just going to sell you a module, right?
Yeah. It's
Um,
it's uh it's there. It's kind of like a Ford coil, right? That's a job
yeah,
security.
yeah, exactly. So that sort of stuff, it's interesting, but it's also really beneficial to you as a business or technician or whatever. I mean, even just a tech in a shop, right? Like the you could purchase some tooling, go to some training, and now you have an individual skill set that you can offer your shop that didn't exist
Yes.
prior, makes you more valuable as an employee. Um, and I know a few technicians like that out there that are still, they're still doing, full-time technician job. They're still wrenching, but now I have this additional skill set that adds value to my
Yeah.
business and me as an employee. So it's worth pursuing, I think, if you're dealing with module stuff at all.
Yeah, and it's to fill that void. If let's say you have an appetite for more, you're happy with your career, you want to stay in automotive, but you have an itch to do more, or you've always wondered, well, all these, I'll pick on Ford, modules being toasted from coil issues, and then you can actually repair that and identify it and trace these issues down, and then relate that to anything else you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You can just really grow because then you understand the systems better. It can help you diagnose cars better. You get an approach of computer logic, and you can make better decisions based on that. So it's like anything else in life. It's a snowball effect. If you want the knowledge, and you have that hunger for it, man, it's one. The more you learn, the more you know how little you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the way most guys or technicians can pick out an engine noise is because they know all of the inner components
Yes.
and how they work together, right? If you'd never seen the inside of an engine, you just knew that it goes, you're not going to be able to pick out that lifter, that, rod bearing or whatever. You don't be able to say that, but you have this visualization of how all these
Yeah,
components are moving in
exactly.
your
This is
head.
going this fast. This is going that fast.
Yeah, yeah. And so transfer that over to computers, or circuit board or transistors, a processor, EEPROM, all that stuff. And now all of a sudden that side of your life becomes a little bit easier. You've got a picture in your head rather than just, oh, it's a magic box that does stuff.
Yes. No, that's really well said. And it really, really works. And there's so much more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always more. Random question. Have you dove into one of the Ford Focus TCMs or Fiesta TCMs to
I
attempt any repair?
I'm in the process of that and then of finalizing and refining it. I was fortunate enough
Gotcha.
to have some info. There you go. I was fortunate enough putting up one in
Yeah.
the camera right now. And yeah, it was not fun splitting that, was it?
I only stabbed my hand twice, so.
Yeah, no, oh, that's better than what I could have done. So yeah, there's some parts and some things that go bad in them, and that there's hopefully going to be something I can offer to my customers really, really soon.
Yep.
I mean, I get calls for them several times a week, so
Hmm.
it's gonna, it's a good. The reality behind this though is to be able to offer a good solution, like you are actually going as a business and selling one of these modules and staying behind it. It's a lot of pressure
Yeah.
because it's not just, oh yeah, I'm gonna switch this driver and here you go. But can you really say, hey, you're gonna be okay, and here's my 1 year warranty? So there's a lot that goes behind when you want to recondition a module and say, here you go, I have rebuilt it, you're gonna be good to go. You have to pick out any weak points and identify that and have experience with fixing it in a timely manner. I could have 40 hours into this project and I'm not even close to being done.
Hmm.
So it's when you look at how cost effective it could be, how much money you could be making doing something else, and like as we were touching on this earlier, it's a constant balance. What direction do
Yeah.
you go in? Somebody had said we're always chasing bags in the air, so or bags in the wind, I think. So it's yeah,
Sure.
it never stops. So that's one of them. Yeah, it's I'm not sure if Ford has already established that they can have these back in stock in a reasonable amount of time. I haven't heard anything about it. I think it's only getting worse. So having a solution for these modules is going to be very, very important and
Hmm.
beneficial to us.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping to figure out something. I've got some parts on order that hopefully should be here soon, and then I'm gonna mess around with it. And my thought process is I got several of them here. I'm gonna do my best to attempt to repair. I've got some clutch motors that I'm gonna hook up on the bench and see what happens. But then I've got a few transmission shops that I work closely with. I'm gonna give them a module and say, hey, I'm not charging anything for this. Try this out. Let's see how it works
Yes.
on the car. Like, I want to make sure it actually works on the car.
Oh yeah.
And they've already agreed to give that a shot, knowing full well that, hey, maybe this doesn't work. But
Yeah.
they're in a bind right now either way, right? Like, they can't get these things besides the junkyard. Now I've been told the junkyards have, they know, and so they're charging full price for these things, like the same as a dealer would
From what
charge.
I understood, at least anything local to me, they don't sell you the module. They say if you want this module, you're taking this transmission with you.
Oh,
Yeah, they will
okay.
not split them. At least not anything
Interesting.
around me at all. And then I've looked
Okay.
online at some other places. You have some stuff from overseas that's, questionable that they'll sell you,
Yeah.
something. But as far as like a genuine Ford part out of a car that maybe just got completely crushed in the rear and it's probably good, they will not separate them. Around me, they want to sell you everything.
Well,
So you're
that's
paying for a transmission.
yeah, that's funny you say that because today I did one for a shop where he said he put the whole unit in as one, so that may be the same
Yeah,
scenario.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
And there's no
So
way out. So it's having these solutions and fixing these things is going
yes.
to be great.
Yes. And to that point, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on this evening was to talk about your Subaru solution that you've figured out for these things. And I know you spoke about it with Fonzel on his podcast, and then I had an episode, I don't know, a year or so ago, where I fumbled through one that I ran into for the first time. But you've come up with something pretty cool, and you got a webinar coming up. So I wanted to hear all about what you got going on. Obviously, I'm not asking for the details. That's the webinar portion. But what's
Yeah.
going on with this?
So I definitely want to point out and give a shout out to Leo Gilmore. He's a Subaru tech out of New York, amazing technician, and him and Scott Cheyenne had put together a Subaru class that they presented at Vision. They had approached me about this concern. Leo was all very well familiar with it. And as him and Scott were building this class, they had a discussion about, man, it'd be pretty cool if we could actually, well, I guess we have to back up. So, based on your podcast, these Subaru ECUs, if there's a timing fault, a lot of them will try to learn a new value of adjustment or compensation. And after you fix your timing fault, they won't revert. So it'll keep throwing a timing code even though you're mechanically sound. And in case someone hadn't heard that, I want to at least point that out real quick.
Sure.
So now going back to that, so yeah, they said, well, it would be cool if there could be something to do, and Scott said, hey, I went to this EEPROM class with Pedro, and they do a lot of stuff at the board level. Maybe they can try to find a solution for it. So they had approached me about it, and I, typical me, I'm like, oh heck yeah, I want to try that. I'll see what I could do. I want to do something big. I want to try to figure this out. And I took on the role. It was very difficult for me at first because I see no Subarus around me.
Mm,
Rarely, maybe one a year. So wherever I'm set up, we just don't see them. So I was fortunate enough to work closely with Leo, and we were exchanging modules, trying different things. And he was nobody better I could have on my side than him to try someone
right.
that's and diving into Subarus every day. Um, and I was able to look at these modules, figure out what it was going to take to put them into a point where and in the module repair world, or anytime you try to do anything at the component level, you could do something where you have like a file from a new module. If you're fortunate enough to have one, they call those virgin files, and then they'll put them into a module, and then they program it and do whatever they have to do with it. That wouldn't be very beneficial, even though it'll fix your car, but then it's going to require follow up. If we were trying to completely wipe everything out, any identity, any characteristic the module has, and send it back to a customer, they have to pay for programming, performing immobilizer functions. So we
Sure.
were able to come up with a solution where we're only addressing those VVT learning values, as Subaru calls them. That way, when the module goes back into the car, it has its identity, it's got the right VIN number, the car starts, and then it'll learn the values. If you successfully fix the car, you're good. If the car's still
Sure.
broken, that code's coming right back. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that was very exciting, super exciting. I mean, the first one that me and Leo, man, we were, if our text messages could have audio, I mean, we were probably screaming, of excitement, and it was really really neat. I think the first one we did was like a 2017 XV or Crosstrek, and
Uh-huh.
everything worked out as we would have wanted it to, and it was super exciting. And then we've done several after that. I've done a couple on my own.
Nice.
It's actually had the opportunity to have several mail-ins too now, just from sharing webinar information and then just networking with people. So it's been a beautiful thing. It's really exciting, and I'm really excited to share this with people. There's a lot of hours that go into research, and I'm really gonna enjoy sharing this. And that the biggest thing I'm going to enjoy, to be honest with you, Sean, is the method I used and the technique that I'm using to try to research things inside of modules. I want to share
Okay.
that with the class. It's nothing out of this world, but I think if anybody is curious and they want to start exploring different things and maybe share my method, they could come up with their own method. They can apply it to start exploring different things, because at that point, the possibilities are endless. And as a community, we can help each other and grow and have a library of solutions for us.
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest things for me is, sometimes I'll be sitting there, I'll read something out of a module or a chip on the board or something, and you got hex data, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't like if I don't see a VIN, I'm like, well, I don't know what any of that means or where any of this matters for what I'm doing. And yeah, really super smart people out there that have figured it out, probably, I'm really curious. I'm going to be at that webinar. I'm really curious to know, your approach to it, not just what the solution is. That's great. But yeah, how do you approach a project like that? How do you get through that? So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool that you did that.
No, definitely, and that has always been my goal, and as we had mentioned before, and when we were on here with you with Mike, and when I started doing this with Mike, I wanted to share the information I have on how things work, not on vehicle brand specific things. That's good that you need it, but when you can teach someone how something works, I mean, you can let them run on their own, and they're going to do much bigger things than I could have ever done. If anybody out there just unleashes their full potential, and they enjoy what they learned, and you make them feel comfortable and get familiar with a topic, because sometimes that's all it takes. I had to go to one class, the very first class I went to with Mike, and I mean, I just ran with it. The moment he answered the few questions I couldn't get answers to, and pointed me where to get the tools I needed, that's it. It was over.
Yep.
And I want to share that. It's very, very difficult to get the right information. And, I definitely never want to take away from the hard work that people that do this. Um, Anybody that is interested in doing this and is going to put in the work, I think they deserve to have the knowledge and get the direction on how to do this. Anybody that's not going to invest in themselves, um, it's it's not something they're going to pursue. So anybody
Hmm.
attending this webinar, it's because they're hungry for the knowledge. They wanna grow, and they want to try new things.
Yeah. I mean, and be that person in your shop or your town or your state potentially that can do
Yeah,
this when nobody else can, because the dealer, again, like the BMW thing, they're selling new modules. That's the
yeah.
in the TSB is replace the module at this point when you get
No,
to this.
definitely. I had actually saved a slide from the Subaru. They have a big TSB on this issue, right? You look up the trouble code, it takes you to a technical service bulletin that talks about how to diagnose this problem in the vehicles that they list. And it starts from some 2012s and up, mostly 14 and up, but a couple of 12s. And you go through the process. It tells you how to diagnose something. It's pretty good. It's a little lengthy, and it'll go, okay, you repaired it. Now go look at your learning values. Are they out of this specification? Replace ECU.
Mm-hmm.
That's a solution, and they're not cheap. They're very expensive, and sometimes they take a long time to get them. So being able to offer that to a customer as a repair service. Hey, we repaired your vehicle mechanically. There was some electronic things that have also been altered as a consequence of your fault, but we address that as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's huge. So yeah, I'm excited for that. You guys, there's a raffle going on too. You got
Oh,
some people
yes.
sponsoring it. What's going on
Yes,
there?
thank you for reminding me. So it's we have it set up for October 27th, which is going to be a Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. Uh, if it goes longer, obviously I'll be there and everybody's welcome to stay, but it's scheduled to be from 7 to 9. And anybody that signs up, I get the question a lot, so I wanted to take the opportunity. You're going to get a reminder the day before, and then the day of, you're going to get an email with the link to get on. And Carlos from AES Wave reached out to me, and he's donating a really cool tool. It's a breakout box that's going to have some leads on it that we use all the time for hooking up modules on the bench. Power supply, communication lights, ground. It acts like a breakout box to assist you with everyday diagnosis with a DLC.
Mm-hmm.
And it has this cool adapter that you can plug in on the side where you can treat it as a complete bench setup where you can plug in a scan tool, power up a module, connect your scan tool, and that's going to be part of the process that we're going to be doing in the webinar actually. And then also Topped On, an amazing company with some really cool stuff, scan tools, maintainers, and anything with power supplies. They have donated 2 scan tools. I have that
Nice.
listed on my Facebook page, and I'll be sharing more on that in the posts and emails that we send out. But anybody that registers to the class will be entered into that raffle. So there will be 2 top-down scan tools and that adapter from AES Wave. So a big thanks to them for
Nice.
supporting me.
Is that the Go Diag? Is that the breakout box?
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Okay.
is the Go Diag. So basically, AES Wave took on a project to add a connector on the side that is all banana leads
Oh,
that
sure.
works
Okay.
with the AES Wave. I can't think of the
The U
name.
terminal.
Yeah, the U terminal kit.
Nice.
And man, I mean, anything you need is in there. So it's really really neat.
Yeah. That Go Diag box is definitely super slick. I have one in my van and I have one for just like my house when I'm doing stuff at home.
Yep, exactly.
And the newer, because I had the old one, the newer one I bought it's got the voltage for the system, but I like that it has the amperage on there too. So like if I've got a completely dead module or I think it's a dead module, it's kind of a giveaway of
Yes,
hey, this
yes.
thing's doing something. It's not completely dead.
Well, also when I hook up something wrong, I see a big spike on that ammeter. I know
Yeah,
I gotta
right.
take a step back. So it's
Exactly.
very, very neat.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. So yeah, more incentive for people to check that out. Yeah, Topped On, awesome stuff too. I've been using a bunch of their stuff recently. I got their EEPROM, the Ninja box. I've been messing around
Oh,
with that a little
nice,
bit.
nice. I've been meaning to get
Um,
one. I'm gonna try to be using that very soon as well. So it's supposed to be very, very capable device.
yeah.
So I'm looking forward to having that on the bench as well. They do some cool stuff. One of my favorite scan tools from them is the remote. I use that all the time with my tech, and it's something to look into. It has some really neat features. So really exciting.
Yeah, because I haven't used the remote myself. I have the smart, but so the remote, it's a fully functional scan tool. Like you don't have to have someone remote in, right? You can just use it as
Oh
a
yeah.
scan tool. Is that okay?
100%. And one of the key features is just as the name would indicate, anybody with a capable device that's part of their team will be able to use OEM software to assist you in programming, performing functions, and even diagnostics.
Nice,
So it's something that it's in early stages, but it looks very promising.
cool. Yeah, all these tools. It's obviously never ending.
Oh
Um,
man.
do you? Because I've talked to people that do and people that don't. Do you track ROI on the stuff that you buy for your business at all? Or is
It's
it
probably
just
gonna
sort of
sound
like I
terrible. I
want
don't.
that
Yeah.
or
Yeah, I'm spoiled like that, and it's not. I wish I could, and I want to evolve into being able to do that. But I haven't put myself in the situation. I can't, being obviously a small company, right? It's me and one guy, so I could gauge it out and say, hey, and see if it's something that's going to work for me. Then I have an idea how many requests I've had, how many people have called me for a certain job, and a tool that I'm going to need, or how it could benefit me, and then it's you make a wise choice. There's some trades I've made that haven't paid back, so I've learned the hard way. But I think it's very interesting when you can have a sheet showing the return of investment from anything that you're buying. It's the right move, but I haven't done that quite yet. Is that something you're doing already?
No, I'm in the same boat where it's an idea of mine. I would love to actually track that somehow, but I don't have any means of doing it at the moment. I was actually thinking the other day, I'm like, I wonder what tool, or you could even say like, I don't know, scan tool platform. Sometimes it's just software, right? What tool or what software has had the best ROI for me? Like what, you know, dollar for dollar, what's been the most valuable tool that I've purchased? I was trying to think about that, and it was tough because there was a few that would pop up. I'm like, well, yeah, I do a lot of GM transmissions, right?
Yeah.
So my MDI2 has paid for itself several times over. My IO terminal has paid for itself several times over. But yeah, there's so many different ones where I'm just like, oh, that's been a really nice tool. That's been really handy. And then the opposite side of it too, where I bought this and I either never used it or I used it once. And I'm like, boy, that was kind of it was a waste of money.
I have one that I'm not going to say the name, but yeah, it was a terrible, terrible choice. And, so pricey, but it's part of it. And sometimes you think that it's something you can add on and it doesn't work out. But yeah, I would agree. I think probably maybe 50%, 60% of my programming client base is transmission shops. We do a lot of them, every day. And I would agree, GM transmissions have been great. At one point, it's almost like these things come in waves. The Nissan CVTs, man, it was just nonstop. So I could have said that my Nissan factory interface and the software was at one point my best return of investment, and then it just shifts over to the next one. So it all depends, what's happening around you and the market that you're in, and then what's going to pay off. And that's, as you're saying that in the same breath, you have to consider, well, that's why you need so many tools, and it's hard to really gauge out, oh yeah, I'm going to have a consistent flow of this one. When you're I think a company of our size where we just have a couple techs or one tech, whatever's going on in your market, in your area, that's going to dictate what tools are going to pay back or not, or they're going to be on the shelf for a little bit, and then you're going to pull them back out when you need them again.
Yep.
It's almost like these cars pick when they're all going to break down together. You have like a complete Chrysler Jeep week, and then you move into a Fords, and yeah, it's almost comical.
It is, and it's been that way as long as I've been in the field, right? Not even the diagnostic technician. I remember like really early on at a shop, and we all of a sudden got 3 Suburbans in. They all needed fuel pumps like the same day, and 2 of them were same color. Like there was 2 black Suburbans and a red one, and they all had fuel pumps out. And obviously you start thinking, well, maybe there's some bad gas around or whatever. But like stuff like that happens where you're just like you're doing the same job 3-4 times in a week, and then you don't see it for a month.
Yeah,
like, what is that?
You just brought back a memory of I could relate that. It was the Chrysler 300 Dodge Charger suspensions. I mean, we were just doing control arms on these things nonstop. It's like they had a limited life, and they were just coming in for all kinds of clunky noises. And yeah, the parking lot always had those cars there. So it's like it was a wave. I could think when I just got out of school, it was 06, 07. I mean, we were just flooded with cars like that for suspension work. And then I don't know, I haven't seen them as much for that concern anymore. But yeah.
3.1 and 3.4 intake gaskets. I could do those in my sleep, and I wasn't a GM technician either. I was an independent tech, and I did so many of those things. Of course, I haven't done one. I haven't seen one or done one in years.
Right.
I could probably still remember all the bolts on it. But
oh man, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that one. That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, yeah, these waves are interesting, and then they go the same way with electronics. These pattern failures, you'll get flooded with them, and then they go away.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think of something else that I've seen as far as programming. I mean, those, Ford Focus, Ford Fiesta, TCMs, those are obvious. They've always been there.
Those hit this summer when it got hot around here. Like I kind of had a period of time where they were infrequent, and then as soon as it got hot this summer, it was just one after another after another.
That's awesome.
So I'll be curious to see now that it's cooling down if that kind of backs off or not. I don't know. I mean, I know it's a dry clutch system, and so it's possible the overheating, has something to do with the failures in them. But
yeah. No, it's crazy. I wish we could predict this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be great.
There's an idea. No, but yeah, it's, especially as you start investing into a new tech, that's going to be one of the most difficult questions you're going to ask yourself. What do I need to tool him up with first?
Yeah. I'm going big three that's the majority of what I do is for GM Chrysler, but by a wide margin. So I'm going to set him up with that to start.
Yeah.
And that'll be a starting point, and it'll kind of expand out from there. I'll handle, Asian, Euro, Diag, and keys for now, and then eventually, spread that as much as possible, or at least that's my plan for right now. Life doesn't always go according to plan. But.
No, but you got the right idea. It's everything you're saying, kind of like I can put myself in that place from where I started, and I like that idea.
Yeah. So hopefully it all works out. That's
it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's fun. It's exciting. I've never been completely out on my own, like I am, since this spring. But I really do enjoy it. Like calling the shots is pretty cool. Even though it requires a lot of your energy and attention and focus and responsibility, especially if you have an employee, even more so. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think I could go back to working for somebody else.
Exactly. I had a really cool situation where I had a vehicle towed in from almost 4 hours away, almost in another state. And it was someone that had attended one of my classes, and they were really looking to get some help on a vehicle. And wow, I lost my train of thought.
It's all good. I have brain farts all the time.
Yeah. Wow, that sucks. Yeah, I don't know why maybe it'll come back to me in a bit, but no, once you're looking into that, you get to call the shots, but you're also kind of like a slave to yourself because of that. But at least you're doing. Oh, that's what it was. I remember now. So they towed the car up here to me, and I'm not sure if the shop owner was joking or serious. The conversation carried on a lot where he kept trying to offer me a job. And it's not like a flex or anything. It's more like how much I would not even consider that, because I'm enjoying so much what I'm doing. Yes. Like I was able to help them with their vehicle. I did it my way. It worked out, and I took my approach to my comfort, and everything was great with it. So even the thought of me thinking of being under somebody else at that time, I feel like I would lose everything that I've worked for right now.
Yeah, exactly. It comes with a lot of responsibility, a lot of weight on your shoulders to do it. But it's you're the captain of the ship, regardless of which direction it's going.
And sometimes the captain's not that nice to himself.
Oh yeah, right. I'm the worst boss for sure. It's 9:00. You better get back to work on that module.
Yeah. Finish it off. You got more to do tomorrow.
Sleep? You don't need sleep.
Oh boy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. Thank you for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. I'm sure you're crazy busy, so it means a lot to me that you do that. I will. There's a link to the webinar, correct?
Yes. Let me know if there's any way I can share it with you, and I'll pass it along.
I'm going to put it in the show notes. It'll be on the Facebook page. I think it already is on the Facebook page, but it'll be with this episode's post. So anybody that's interested, it's a click away, and strongly recommend you check it out. I will be there for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It was a real honor to be here, and just very excited that I had an opportunity to talk to you again. And it's I'm really looking forward to the class and that opportunity. I'm sure that every time there's any type of a class or lesson, I learn so much. You know, you have so many bright people that start grilling you and asking you all kinds of questions, and it really gets the hamster wheel turning. So I learned so
Yeah.
much from these people. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right. One more big thank you to Pedro for joining me on the show today. I really appreciate it. Really cool stuff. I hope you are interested in sign up for that webinar. Again, there's a link in the show notes for you to do that. Feel free to reach out if you've got any questions. I'll do my best to answer. But other than that, I would just like to thank everybody for listening to the show, all the feedback that I've been getting about the show. And heck, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, reach out to me. My email's in the show notes. You can hit me up there, Facebook Messenger, Carrier Pigeon, whatever's easiest. We'll talk. But other than that, let's all get out there, start fixing the world one car at a time.